So the highly anticipated Deadpool and Wolverine film has finally released in theaters, and I just got done checking this film out on the big screen. Did it live up to the hype? Let's go ahead and discuss this film. Let's go. Deadpool and Wolverine is directed by Shawn Levy and is the third film in the Deadpool franchise installment, and this is also Deadpool's very first film inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, in this film, we see Ryan Reynolds returning as Deadpool and Hugh Jackman returning as Wolverine for a buddy team-up action comedy film where we see Deadpool's peaceful existence come crashing down when the Time Variance Authority recruits him to help safeguard the multiverse. So as you can imagine, this film has quite a lot to do with the multiverse, which if you checked out Marvel show Loki, you would know that anyone jumping around in the multiverse ends up attracting the attention of the Time Variance Authority, which plays a huge role inside of this film. Now, why they chose to go with this, I have no idea. It was a very strange decision on Marvel's part, because if you have not watched Loki, you're going to have a very hard time understanding exactly what is going on inside of this film for a lot of the storyline and plot lines. Now, while we do get a little bit of a glimpse into our main Marvel universe, that being the 616 universe, the majority of this film is spent outside of space and time in a place called the Void, which again is a concept from the Loki show where time variants who are messing around with the multiverse or their world happens to be dying get sent to this place. Now, while in this place, Deadpool and Wolverine find themselves fighting not only the TVA, but also a particular villain that exists only inside the Void. Now, with that, you get two antagonists inside of this film. Both of them are pretty uninteresting, and in the grand scheme of things, don't really matter as much as this Deadpool and Wolverine team up. Now, while it was fantastic to see Hugh Jackman return back to the big screen as his iconic character Wolverine, he kind of takes a back seat inside of this film to Ryan Reynolds and to the Deadpool character. Deadpool overshadows this entire movie, as you could imagine, with a fourth wall breaking character, which by the way, you get plenty of fourth wall breaks inside of this film. A lot of them are very entertaining, but as I was saying, Deadpool overshadows this entire movie, especially Wolverine's character, because his jokes are nonstop, his humor is nonstop. A lot of the jokes inside of this film are hit or miss. The audience appreciated some of them and didn't really care for some of the other jokes, and inside of this film you get fantastic action sequences, some of the best in the entire MCU, because in this film, this is a rated R movie, so we get to play around a lot with the blood, the guts, the gore, which we've never seen before inside of an MCU movie. So that was quite a treat to get to see inside of this film. Now, along with that, this film is chock full of cameos that you would never imagine or expect to see inside of this movie. They're quite surprising and quite unexpected, and even if I was to tell you who appears inside of this film, which I won't due to spoilers, you wouldn't even believe me because they're that bizarre. In fact, this entire film as a whole is extremely bizarre. I have no idea why they approached this film in the way that they did, where for the most part we're existing outside of the main MCU Earth and universe. It honestly made the entire journey feel pretty irrelevant for the most part to the overall Marvel Cinematic Universe, and if you haven't kept up on all things Marvel inside and outside of the MCU, you're going to be pretty confused when you watch this movie as to what you're seeing. And while I love the start of this movie and the first act of this film, and especially the opening credits scene with Deadpool, an awesome action scene, the more this movie continues on from the first act into the end of the film, this movie is discombobulated, it's bizarre, it's all over the place, it's unorganized, it's messy, and just all around was disappointing, quite honestly. And while there's a lot of greatness inside of this movie, and that me as a comic book fan and as a Marvel Cinematic Universe fan can heavily appreciate and nerd out over, as I'm sure a lot of you are going to do, at the same time, this movie was a letdown. It should have been a lot better than it actually was. The story should have been a lot more cohesive here for Deadpool and Wolverine, for our characters. I could have never predicted or imagined that they would have went about this film in the way that they did, because a lot of it is nonsensical madness, which, don't get me wrong, it's extremely entertaining. I was highly entertained from start to finish. There's no boring moments inside of this film. You're going to be entertained the entire way through. But as a fan of film, as a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this film was not as satisfying as it should have been and as I expected it to be. The two villains inside of this film are weak. Hugh Jackman is not as glorious on on screen as he should have been. And if I had to answer the question, did this live up to the hype? I would go ahead and say no. So with that being said, let's go ahead and drop the official rating for Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm going to give this film a 7 out of 10. It gets the 7 out of 10, and quite honestly, that's a pretty generous rating for me, and that's only because I'm such a fan of these characters and of this universe that despite its problems, I still managed to get a good amount of enjoyment out of it. But at the end of the film, once the credits hit, I really felt let down, man. I really felt like this was not worth the hype, and that crushed a part of me a little bit, because now we're falling more into the narrative of, has the MCU fallen off? I didn't want to believe it up until now, and yes, while we've had hit and miss films since Endgame, to be honest, I've enjoyed, I would say, a majority of the films that Marvel has released since Endgame. I've enjoyed them definitely more than the general public has, but this one right here was just not as good as it should have been. It's the weakest Deadpool film out of the entire trilogy, and one of the weaker films overall for the new MCU that's taken place after Endgame. Now, if you're just looking for a popcorn movie to go enjoy at the theaters, this is more in that territory. You'll probably enjoy it for that. Again, for just pure entertainment value, you'll probably get some level of enjoyment out of it, as I did. But from a storytelling perspective, this one was just not it, guys. And before we get into any spoiler talk, I would love to know your thoughts, your opinions on Deadpool and Wolverine down in the comment section down below if you've seen it. And if you haven't seen it, will you be going to see this movie, yes or no? Let me know that down in the comment section down below. I'm sure you are, because it's the newest Marvel movie. There's a lot of hype behind it, and the showing that I went to was completely sold out. So I'm sure this film's not going to have any problems at the box office in terms of earnings. But with that being said, we're going to move more into spoiler territory. So I'm going to go ahead and sign us off, and then we're going to jump into spoilers. Okay, so if you don't know what we do here on Demigod ENT, we do film and TV reactions and reviews. If you're interested in any of this movie-based content, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the spoilers, which begins right now. So spoiler time for those who have seen the film Deadpool and Wolverine. If you haven't seen it, leave this video. If you've seen it, let's get into spoilers. So to be honest, this entire film is spoilers. So let's talk about the villain inside of the Void, which I feel like I couldn't even mention inside the non-spoiler part, because I feel like even knowing the villain is a spoiler. So of course it is Magneto's sister who is the villain inside of this film. She is inside the Void, she's running the Void, and her power is pretty cool. She's able to see into your mind. They had this weird effect where she's like putting her fingers into your skull. That was very weird, very bizarre. I liked seeing the effect overall, but in terms of the overall villains, I think she's going to fall by the wayside, like a majority of the Marvel villains do inside of the MCU especially. And outside of that, more importantly, we got Chris Evans back in this film. That was a joy to see. I love the way they play it off to the audience, how it seemed like we're going to get, ooh, Captain America. You kind of see the red and the blue. You're like, okay, but no, they do a misdirect. They have Chris Evans back as his Fantastic Four character, Johnny the Human Torch. Chris Evans in this movie is amazing. He's amazing in any film he's in. He was my personal favorite in the MCU as Captain America. Captain America was my favorite hero overall, so sad to see him go, but great to see him return as a little cameo inside of this film. He got a great death scene inside of this movie where he gets the skin absolutely ripped off of him. His body just drops to the ground. Crazy shit you got to see inside of here. Stuff I never thought I'd see inside of an MCU movie, so that was quite a treat. And then we got the original Blade inside of this movie, Wesley Snipes. What the fuck? Where did that come from? Wesley Snipes. When he appeared on screen, I'm like, what the hell? What is going on inside of this film? He's highly entertaining though. Wesley Snipes is back as Blade. It's cool to see him get to play this character again. They had a great joke about how he's the only Blade that's ever going to exist, because Mahershala Ali has pretty much fallen out as the character of Blade. He was hired by Marvel years back to play this character, and it seems like they've just moved on from Blade overall. So that was a great joke. We got great fourth wall breaks, great one-liners from Deadpool inside of here talking about the overall state of the MCU. At one moment, Deadpool tells Wolverine, welcome to the MCU. You kind of joined at a low point though, which was a great joke, one of my favorites in the entire film. We have Channing Tatum make an appearance in here as the character Gambit. Very strange seeing him inside of here, though Gambit's powers were pretty cool with that deck of cards. That was awesome stuff to see. We got to see X-23 back inside of here. Of course, we haven't seen that character since Logan 2017, so seeing X-23 once again, that was pretty cool, though I don't feel like there was enough payoff between Wolverine and X-23, but of course, they're from different universes, so they don't even really know each other, right? And the opening sequence that I talked about in the non-spoiler part, where we see Deadpool like fighting off the TVA with Wolverine, with Logan's dead skeleton from the Logan film, that was bizarre, that was hilarious, that got a lot of laughs out of me. He's also like having this dancing sequence the entire time. Highly entertaining. Ryan Reynolds nailed Deadpool as always. He's perfect in the role. And we also got to see mini Wolverine, comic accurate Wolverine as they called him inside of this film, where he is just this little guy inside of the bar when he hops off the bar chair. Another great moment. And listen, the runtime for this video is already longer than I would have liked it to be, so we're gonna go ahead and pretty much stop it right here. But I hope you enjoyed the spoiler section and the spoiler review of this video. I just wanted to touch on some of my favorite moments inside of this film, so I'm glad I went ahead and did that. Again, I already signed us off, so you already know what we do here on Demigod ENT, especially if you've stuck around this long. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below once again, and I'll catch you in the next movie review. Peace.